Welcome back to Soil Stories, friends. Let me ask you something that might sound almost too good to be true. What if I told you there's a single plant you can grow once and it feeds your garden for decades? No bags, no bottles, no buying again, no compost turning, no manure hauling, no synthetic fertilizers. Just one plant, quietly growing, cutting after cutting, creating what feels like infinite fertilizer. This isn't a gimmick. Old gardeners knew it. Traditional farms relied on it, and then somehow, we stopped using it. Today, let's talk about that plant, why it vanished from modern gardens, and how bringing it back can completely change the way you grow food. The plant is comfrey. Before fertilizers came in plastic bags, comfrey was considered one of the most valuable plants on a farm, not because it looked beautiful, and not because you ate it every day, but because it fed everything else. Comfrey grows deep, its roots can reach down where most crops never will, mining minerals locked deep in the soil, potassium, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, and trace elements. These are nutrients that rainfall would otherwise wash away forever. Comfrey pulls them up, stores them in its leaves, and hands them right back to you. Cut the leaves, drop them on the soil, and you've just fertilized your garden, and you can do this over and over again. That's where the idea of infinite fertilizer comes from. You don't replant comfrey every season, you don't replace it. Once established, it produces massive amounts of nutrient-dense biomass year after year. So, here's what really makes comfrey stand out from manure, compost, or even those store-bought feeds. It's got a unique set of benefits that, honestly, you just won't find all in one place with the other options. Manure. Well, it depends on animals, their feed transport, proper aging, and of course, timing. And compost, that takes up space, a fair bit of labor, plenty of water, and let's be honest, a whole lot of patience. Synthetic fertilizers, sure, they feed plants fast, but over time, they end up starving the life in your soil. It's a quick fix, but it comes at a pretty big cost down the road. Comfrey does something smarter. It grows nutrients using sunlight, rain, and deep soil reserves. When you cut the leaves and return them to the surface, those nutrients are released slowly as the leaves break down. Earthworms pull them deeper. Microbes get fed, soil structure improves, plants grow stronger without being forced. You're not adding something foreign to the soil, you're cycling what already belongs there. That's real fertility. Once comfrey is established, you can cut it 3 to 5 times a year, depending on your climate and rainfall. Each cut can give you armfuls of thick, juicy leaves. Those leaves become fertilizer in multiple ways. Laid fresh on the soil, they act as mulch, suppressing weeds while feeding crops like tomatoes, potatoes, maize, peppers, and fruit trees. Chopped and buried lightly, they break down faster, releasing nutrients directly into the root zone. Soaked in water for a few weeks, comfrey turns into a powerful liquid feed, dark, rich, and incredibly effective for flowering and fruiting plants. When you dilute it properly, it rivals commercial fertilizers without costing you a single coin. And the plant keeps growing back. No factory, no supply chain, just, life feeding life. This is, well, the uncomfortable part of the story. We didn't stop using comfrey because it didn't work. We stopped because it didn't make anyone money. Comfrey can't be easily packaged. It doesn't fit into seasonal sales cycles. Once you have it, you don't need to buy fertilizer again. That's a problem in an economy built on repeat purchases. As chemical fertilizers rose in popularity, knowledge of plant-based fertility kind of faded away. Extension services just stopped teaching it altogether. Garden books started replacing that wisdom with numbers and formulas. Comfrey, well, it became labeled as old-fashioned, messy, or even invasive, and usually without any real context. What really disappeared wasn't the plant itself, it was the wisdom behind it. Not all comfrey is the same, and honestly, this really matters. Old common comfrey spreads by seed, which made a lot of people nervous. These days, modern gardeners prefer Russian comfrey, especially sterile varieties like Bocking 14. These types don't self-seed, and they stay exactly where you plant them. Once planted, comfrey is almost impossible to remove, which, sounds kind of scary until you realize that's exactly what makes it so reliable. It's a permanent fertility engine. Plant it where you want long-term productivity near compost areas, beside fruit trees, along garden edges, or even in food forests. This isn't theory. This is practical, everyday gardening. If you grow tomatoes, comfrey gives you potassium for flowers and fruits. If you grow leafy greens, it feeds soil microbes that unlock nitrogen naturally. For root crops, it improves soil structure and mineral balance. Around fruit trees, it acts as a living nutrient pump and mulch source. You cut comfrey before it flowers, when leaves are most nutrient-rich. Leave a few centimeters above the crown so it regrows fast. Within a few weeks, it's back. Over time, you'll notice something subtle but powerful. Soil becomes darker, crops become more resilient, pests decrease, water retention improves. That's not magic, that's biology. If you're new to gardening, comfrey simplifies everything. You don't need to memorize fertilizer schedules or worry about burning plants. You cut leaves and feed the soil. That's it. If you're experienced, comfrey fits beautifully into regenerative systems. It pairs with compost, biochar, mulch, and cover crops. It closes nutrient loops. It reduces inputs. It builds independence. This is why permaculture designers, old farmers, and soil scientists keep coming back to comfrey, even when trends change. Some people hear infinite fertilizer and assume exaggeration, but here's the truth. Comfrey doesn't create nutrients from nothing, it recovers what would otherwise be lost. Deep minerals, leached elements, neglected soil wealth, comfrey brings it back into circulation. As long as the sun shines and roots can reach deep, the cycle continues. That's as close to infinite as nature gets. At Soil Stories, this is exactly the kind of knowledge we exist to share. Not hacks that burn out soil, not shortcuts that collapse later, but old proven systems that work quietly, year after year. Comfrey isn't exciting in a flashy way, it doesn't come in shiny bags, it doesn't promise instant miracles. What it offers is something better: independence, resilience, and soil that improves with time instead of wearing out. So, that's the future of gardening. And, the past we forgot. If you've been relying on manure, bottled feeds, or expensive inputs, I encourage you to try this plant. Just grow it once, watch how your soil responds, and pay attention to how your crops change. Gardening becomes calmer when fertility is no longer something you chase, it's something that grows right beside you. If this story helped you see your garden differently, share it with another grower who's, tired of buying fertilizer every season. And don't forget to subscribe to Soil Stories for more forgotten wisdom, practical soil knowledge, and real-world gardening truths. The soil remembers. We're just learning how to listen again.